The day started with legal arguments. One of the things mentioned was that there were several falsehoods in the search warrant that ended up being served on Michelle Troconis. The prosecutor admitted 30 stops was false, but didn't like the defense's characterization of falsehood. The judge says, in response to a number of arguments, the judge said he's not going to allow testimony that rides the wave of a Frank's motion. The defense objected to video clips of only a few seconds long because if you watch the same clip for 10 minutes, multiple similar trucks drive by those cameras. The judge says that the defense can address it on cross. When they did, I don't think they got the answer that they wanted on cross. The first witness was Sergeant Bowton. He noticed a Jeep Cherokee driving near the Jefferson Crossing home, driven by a white male, matching the description of Fotis. This was the day they were at Jefferson Crossing wanting to serve this warrant. The Jeep didn't stop at the house. The driver didn't look at them, just drove right past. But then the Jeep drove back toward the house and then left again. So they stopped this vehicle, and it turns out it wasn't Fotis. It was Pavel. According to the officer's testimony, he appeared nervous, but that could be for any number of reasons. His shirt was soaked with sweat. Pavel said that was because he was working on a house, but the house he described he was working on was an hour away. Pavel was driving in an air-conditioned vehicle. Pavel, upon further questioning, then revealed, he was just over at Deercliff to remove seats from that Porsche. Remember that Porsche that was damaged in the garage? He was taking those seats out to put in his red Tacoma. Pavel initially said, sure, you can look in the Jeep. And then he changed his mind and decided that he'd better not let the police search the Jeep because it actually didn't belong to Pavel. It belonged to Fotis. So the officer can only look at what's in plain view, right? The officer looks through the window and he notices seats lying on their sides, paper towels, and hand tools. The items were not seized by police at that time. Meanwhile, Fotis wasn't answering his phone for the police at all. And they were trying to call him saying, look, we're at your house. We're going to serve this warrant. So the police asked Pavel to call Fotis. So he did. Fotis and Michelle showed up in a Suburban after this call. Michelle's mother and daughter were present. He described Michelle sitting in a chair with her head between her legs and rocking back and forth. He said Michelle gave Fotis a stern look and shook her head. And Fotis made an even sterner look, this is according to his testimony, back toward Michelle. Fotis had an additional phone. Police seized that phone. Police knew that Fotis had had that phone from the time before the crime occurred. So this wasn't some new phone that he got after they seized his first one. The police went to Pavel's house to interview him, and they seized his phone too. Later that same day, the police returned to Pavel's home to seize the Jeep Cherokee. They also seized a computer that belonged to Fotis's company. At 80 Mountain Spring, they got surveillance video. And if you'll recall, 80 Mountain Spring was the house that Fotis had called Michelle to come and help him bring cleaning supplies. And it was odd, and she was not happy about having to go do that. So the police are going to get surveillance video for 80 Mountain Spring. We didn't hear anything about the interview with Pavel, and I hope they're calling him or that we hear something, because I want to know, did Pavel ever admit that he took the Tacoma to 80 Mountain Spring on the day that Michelle was there, or any other time for that matter? So they show this video. As you can see from the video, there's no doubt that this red truck is coming from the driveway at 80 Mountain Springs. I'm interested in hearing the explanation for this. You can't tell who was driving the truck or how many people were in it. You can't see a license plate or anything. But this isn't a matter of this is a truck driving down the street and it could be any red truck, right? It's coming from this driveway. This was 5:35 a.m. on May 24th. This is the morning of the crime. At this time, according to Michelle's statement, Michelle was still asleep in her daughter's room. The defense asks Boughton if he'd watched the video showing all the way through the previous night. And I thought that was a good question. The question is, when did the truck arrive there? How long had it been there? Boughton said he did look at the surveillance from the night before, but he didn't see any red truck pull into that driveway. Now, there's lots of speculation that could be had about this. We'll have to hear the rest of the evidence. But one of the things that you should know about this particular camera is that it's motion activated. And those cameras aren't always reliable. We don't know what the motion was that set it off. The defense brought out that Pavel omitted his visit to Mountain Springs until he was questioned further. And that's a good point. The officer said to him, "Why are you all sweaty?" Just think of recency. We remember the most recent things. Why are you so sweaty? Well, because I was hauling these seats. Right? But that's not what Pavel says. He describes something he'd been doing at least an hour previous. So that's a little bit odd. Why would you feel the need to hide that? On cross, Boughton did a great job testifying. I wish everybody would testify like that. He was straightforward. There were not a lot of pauses. When he made a mistake, he was quick to say, "Oh yeah, that's right." When something sounded like criticism, he didn't try and protect his ego. He just gave the facts to the best of his knowledge and ability. The defense showed this aerial video of the neighborhood and Hartford area in general, including the reservoir area of the motorcycle route Michelle had pointed out to the police. And there was some people would call it a funny moment, and I usually find things funny. I didn't find this funny. Where the defense says, "Okay, Your Honor, I think I'll stop the video now. There are a few seconds left in it, but I don't think we need to sit through it." And the prosecutor says, "Yes, please do." Like, there was a lot of sarcasm in his voice. I think some people look at this defense lawyer and think maybe he's weird or ridiculous. But one of the things I've learned about this guy as this trial has gone on is that he's very good at strategy in respect to answering questions. I'm not speaking to an overall trial strategy here. I'm just talking about questioning. He will ask a series of questions, and it's not readily apparent what he's going to do with it. And very often he leaves a delay between the time he asks the question where he's going to go in for a zinger and the time that he launches that arrow. The witness doesn't see it coming. So he knows how to do that. The next witness was Gregory Lebeau. He looked at surveillance footage. He was at the I-95 rest area, and that's where they look at all the rest area cameras. And he was looking for the Suburban, the Raptor, and the Toyota. And he was told this the week of June 3rd. And I find this interesting that he was told the week of June 3rd. Remember, Michelle's interview with police was June 2nd. And that's when she told police about Pavel's red Tacoma. I'm wondering, and maybe it doesn't matter, but I'm just curious about everything. I'm wondering if Michelle was the only source of information for the existence of this red Tacoma. Lebeau only had photos of the Suburban and the Raptor at first. It wasn't until later that he got a photo of the Tacoma. On May 24th, 2019, he looked at the footage from 4 a.m. He saw a Tacoma at 6:36 a.m. and he saw a Tacoma at 7:03 a.m. He saw another at 11:12 a.m. going northbound on the Merritt Parkway. And this one was interesting. Look in the back of this truck. On cross-examinations, remember at the very beginning, the defense is saying, well, if you look at the clips for longer, you'll see lots of red trucks. So on cross-examination, the defense asked, Did you take video clips of all the red trucks you saw? The answer was no. Well, how many red trucks did you see? The answer was 2. At 6:36 a.m., they saw this Tacoma. They didn't see, and you can't, who was driving the truck, how many people were in the truck. And when the defense was asking, could you see who was in the truck? Could you see how many people were in the truck? Before the trooper could answer, the prosecution was objecting and was overruled. Then the defense asked questions about the Raptor and the investigation around the Raptor. And I'll let you see how that went.
You talked about being asked to look for a red Tacoma,
Yes.
a Chevy Suburban,
Yes.
a black Chevy Suburban,
Correct.
and a black Raptor.
Correct.
Were you asked to look for any other vehicles?
No.
May I have one moment, please, Your Honor?
Yes.
Did you see any black Raptors?
I saw a lot of vehicles that resembled black Raptors, but I couldn't positively identify or even come close to saying that it was consistent with the one that I was looking at.
Either going southbound
Southbound or northbound?
or northbound.
Correct.
Did you take any images of any black Raptors traveling southbound?
Later on, after when I was asked to confirm the movements of Mr. Gumani in his black Raptor.
Did you take images of any black Raptor traveling southbound on May 24th, 2019?
I took some screenshots to zoom them in to see if I could identify it.
Were you able to identify any black Raptor traveling southbound on May 24th, 2019?
Yes.
And did you provide such identification? Did you prepare a report related to such identification?
I don't believe I did.
Did you speak to anybody about such identification?
Sergeant Ventresca.
When did you speak with Sergeant Ventresca?
So it was sometime, I don't recall the date that they'd asked me to look to confirm based on information from the information from the Ford Raptor. But yeah, I don't recall that date, but I just confirmed that the Raptor was on the Merritt Parkway.
When did you confirm that?
I don't recall that date.
Was it in 2019?
I believe it was in 2019.
Do you know whether Sergeant Ventresca prepared a report related to that?
I don't know.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
The prosecution recalled Kelly Coughlin. She reviewed videos from school buses. This is good stuff. You know, some police services would not bother to go do this. Her testimony was, and this is a doozy, the Tacoma was captured on video on Lapham Road. That's where Jennifer's Suburban was found. The Tacoma was parked in a cutout. And as the bus went by, it was captured at 7:40 a.m. When the bus goes by at 7:57 a.m., it's captured again. Did Fotis leave the Tacoma there because he planned all this out? Did he take Pavel's Tacoma, leave it there, ride a bike or run to Jennifer's house to lay in wait, knowing he would put her in her own Suburban and drive her back there to try and stage the scene? And he would have transportation back because the Tacoma would be there. Could she have been injured but alive at that point? Anyway, and you know, I'm speculating. They haven't proven it was Fotis or Pavel who put that Tacoma there or who was driving it. So they haven't proven that, but it's just, you know, way too coincidental. Anyway, because the cameras that captured this were on a school bus. Those cameras also captured images of children who were on the bus, and therefore those photographs and videos cannot be shown to the public. So I don't have footage of that red Tacoma there. But here's another interesting little tidbit. So the bus passes, what time did I say here? At 7:40 and at 7:57. So 17 minutes apart, the bus passes and catches a photo of that, or catches video of that Tacoma parked. But it wasn't seen after that. At 7:57 a.m., Jennifer was still alive. We know this. She was seen dropping off her kids at school. Unless he decided maybe that was not a good place to park and he hid it somewhere. And I'm saying Fotis because all the other evidence points to Fotis. Fotis's DNA was in Jennifer's house when there is no reason for it to be there. And don't give me this cake box theory crap. That's nonsense. And they looked for Pavel's DNA and did not find it. And between Pavel and Fotis, who has a motive to do something to Jennifer? I mean, maybe there's something else and I haven't heard about it yet because it hasn't come up in the trial. We'll see. The defense asked if there was oil on the ground where the Tacoma had been parked. Because remember earlier there was mention of the fact that this Tacoma leaked a lot of oil, and the witness didn't know the answer to that. Next up is Sergeant Ventrusca.
Good afternoon, sir.
He testified to surveillance. They basically tracked the Tacoma all over the place. It was still driving around at 11:40 a.m. and 12:22 p.m. This is on May 24th. At 5:25 p.m., the Tacoma is seen coming out of the Mountain Springs driveway. So I'm going to show you this clip, and remember, Michelle said she didn't stay there. She left Pavel and Fotis there. She needed to get rugs, and the place was going to close at 5:30, but she didn't actually describe going to the place. It sounded like she figured she wasn't going to make it, so she turned around and went home. So in the next clip, we should not see Michelle. Remember, she was driving the white Jeep. Fotis was driving the Suburban, and according to Michelle, Pavel was driving the Raptor. Let's watch. I didn't see a white Jeep Cherokee here, did you? Because she was telling the truth that she had left. She's already gone. But how'd that Tacoma get there? If Pavel showed up in the Raptor? I would like to know if there's surveillance video that shows any of them showing up at Mountain Springs when she said she was there cleaning. Is there any surveillance video of the Raptor pulling in, driven by anybody at any point during that day? We saw that Tacoma leave early in the morning. Now this is evening. Could the Tacoma have been parked somewhere, like hidden somewhere on the property, and Michelle didn't notice and she wouldn't have thought to look? If he did something using that Tacoma, he's not going to just park it in the driveway, is he? So that's a possibility, that it was hidden somewhere on that property or in the area and she didn't notice. But then why would she have told police to look at a red Tacoma? I'll leave that to you to ponder. Police obtained location info from the Raptor's infotainment system. That's going to be interesting. But the Tacoma didn't have such a system. I wonder if Fotis knew that. That's all they had time for today. Trust your gut. See you in the comments.